Hi, I'm Sean Sullivan, a partner at Alston & Bird's Healthcare Group, and welcome to this Healthy Bite. Today we're talking about a case out of Pennsylvania that is a big deal for digital health and AI chatbots, because we now have a state that is saying that an AI chatbot cannot present itself as a licensed medical professional. And even though the facts here are healthcare specific, it really feels like a shot across the bow for other regulated industries too. Things like legal, accounting, finance, and the insurance industry, for example, essentially anywhere that credentials matter. So I'm joined today to discuss this with my colleagues Sarah Pullen, Jennifer Everett, and Jonathan Jagoda. Let me ask you first, Sarah. What is this case about?
So here's the scoop. At a high level, Pennsylvania alleged Character Technologies Inc., which is the company behind Character AI, enabled the unlawful practice of medicine and surgery through a specific bot named Emily that allegedly presented itself as a psychiatrist. And this isn't a suit we've seen before. It's not about a bot giving bad medical advice. This is about a bot holding itself out as a licensed medical professional. And Pennsylvania specifically alleged that Emily's profile description said, Doctor of Psychiatry, you are her patient. And then during a conversation with a Pennsylvania investigator, the bot allegedly claimed it went to medical school, said it could perform a depression assessment, and even provided a fake Pennsylvania medical license number. Character AI's response has basically been the bots are fictional and we have prominent disclaimers. But when the bot is allegedly claiming it has a license number and acting like a clinician, that disclaimer argument can be a tough one to overcome. And kind of staying with Character AI's perspective for a second, there's another wrinkle that really matters. The platforms that allow users, not just the company, to create and deploy custom AI characters have to immediately question how much responsibility or liability does the company have to police against user-generated bot personas that claim those credentials? And is it even operationally possible for them to do that policing? Jennifer?
Thanks, Sarah. And I'll just say in the real world, disclaimers only help if they're doing actual work. What I mean by that is this: they need to be obvious, they need to show up in the right moments, and they need to be consistent with what the bot is actually doing. Because if a user experience still feels like this is my therapist or this is my doctor, regulators may not be impressed by a disclaimer that's essentially buried or contradicted rather by the interaction. And the reason this matters for companies isn't just one lawsuit. Instead, there's a broader risk picture. State licensing boards, attorney generals, and consumer protection agencies getting involved. And additionally, there may be the increased risk of private litigation, class action exposure, as well as reputational damage, and even enterprise consumers demanding stronger safeguards and better allocation of risks. So the big takeaway is this: treat this like product governance and compliance, and not just content moderation.
What's happening here is regulators are trying to apply a licensing framework that was built for humans to technology that can mimic a professional relationship. And Pennsylvania is not the only example. California's Attorney General has issued an advisory emphasizing that AI cannot practice medicine in California, reinforcing the idea that only licensed human professionals can practice. On the federal side, you're already seeing members of Congress take an interest. The Chatbot Act, H.R. 7985, would prohibit companies from implying a chatbot holds a license in a covered profession. The key thing there is that this isn't just limited to healthcare. That list includes legal services, accounting, tax, payroll, finance, and insurance, which is why this really does feel like a broader credentialed professions issue, not a one-off healthcare story.
So that's a lot of information and some legal jargon. And we also want to give you some actionable advice. So if you're a company building or deploying these chatbots, what do you do with this case? First, start with a really basic audit of the bots themselves. And if you allow users to make bots, look at the acceptable use policy. Check the names of the bots, the avatars, their bios, and do some test prompts. And look for anything where a bot might imply licensure, credentials, or capabilities that are generally reserved for those credentialed professionals we've mentioned earlier, like doctors or nurses or lawyers. And second, from the back end, put training and response guardrails in place so the bots can't drift into what even sounds like a diagnosis or treatment recommendations or legal or financial advice.
I'll just add two more that come up immediately in enforcement and litigation. Third, strength disclaimers, but do it in a way that matches reality. Make them prominent and persistent, and make sure they're not contradicted by the bot's actual behavior. Fourth, for enterprise customers using third-party chat platforms, this can't be treated like a generic software purchase. Instead, vendor risk is important. So you want to look hard and carefully at indemnification, audit rights, compliance obligations, and how guardrails are updated and enforced.
And I'll tack on two more. One is escalation. If the bot is getting into regulated territory, health, legal, financial, there should be a clear pathway to a licensed human professional. That's increasingly what regulators expect, and it's just a smart design. And the last is, let's keep monitoring the landscape. Between state enforcement actions and where things are heading federally, what's permissible today can quickly shift tomorrow.
So, bottom line, in healthcare, this is fundamentally about licensure and patient protection. But the broader message is for any regulated profession, don't let your AI tool look or act like a licensed professional. We cover this in more detail in our blog post and website article entitled Your AI Therapist May Need a Lawyer. Thank you for watching, and please reach out to us if you'd like to pressure test a chatbot, a vendor contract, or a governance plan. Thanks for joining.